question for me. All right, we are now recording. Great. And those of you who have done this before know what comes next. If you're new, please get your remote ready. That trigger thumb on the play button. Don't press it though. We're going to all press it at the same time. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. You're all still there, right?
Yeah,
yep.
we're here.
We're here.
Yep. Very silent.
Sorry, I'm working on church stuff too.
It's a good opening, Matt.
That too.
I wonder if they were coached to like drag things out, kind of like TJ dragging.
I love this angle. We really rarely get this angle in the game.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Let's just say what she's really saying. She likes Caesar's breakfast better than she likes his. Bold words. Bold words.
Totally.
He wants to be where the action is, like when she was.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's about the experience.
It's kind of like when she hated the date with Jason at the restaurant in the private room.
Oh man, totally.
Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, never thought about that before.
Who was it? Ted Koppel was in the other.
Yep.
But look how he responds differently. He just grabs a bunch of Tupperware and he's on.
Exactly.
Love that he's on not naked lines.
Cool, I got stereo again tonight.
Say anything.
You see how she grabbed this food to eat it?
Okay, I literally watched this episode earlier because I needed background noise. And I just noticed so many details in that opening scene I've never noticed before. Why is that the case when I'm watching this with y'all?
What did you notice?
To share it with us.
Well, other people said it after I noticed it, but like him putting stuff in containers, never noticed that. Her grabbing the bag after she hung up, all that kind of stuff. I usually pay attention to like the talking instead of the moving.
I think there's something to be said about like when you're working in a team environment, you want to find things to share, or like you pick up on different things. So
I think you're right on that.
Definitely
yeah,
it.
Nice. We've all like listened to it so much that like it's kind of nice to actually like sit down and watch.
I agree.
Yeah, it's also there's 15 brains here up on the couch.
people still like breakfast made for them, right? That's the thing.
Hey, I'm in this episode.
You are. Also, like Rory's using just her cell phone now instead of like the dorm phone.
Is this where Brian gets beheaded?
That's a yeah.
I think that's at the end of this episode.
Rory's using her cell phone more, but Paris is going back to the printing press.
Right. That's awesome.
I love the library in the inn. It's so pretty.
Me too. It's my favorite room.
Yep. If you're a true Gilmore fan, you gotta love book.
True.
I feel like it expanded though from what we saw last.
I agree.
Third.
Oh yeah, I definitely think bigger budget. In the last episode, did you guys notice Luke has his own coffee cups?
I didn't, but that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
This show has permeated my life. I almost used a quote on my interview today, and it probably would have kept me from getting the job. The librarian with lots
That's
of books
amazing.
behind her, and I almost said, well, aren't we hooked on phonics?
Yeah, that would be bad to do in an interview.
we go.
Nikki, you're not on mute.
Isn't it the greatest tomato you've ever eaten?
That plate of tomatoes suddenly had way less tomatoes between shots.
Well, they're eating.
Never noticed that.
Because they're eating them.
Yeah, no, I know, but the plate had more tomatoes on it in between the shots, and that's just because the actors were eating them.
Do people really just eat tomatoes like that? I'm allergic to tomatoes.
In the
I
South,
love
they
salt.
eat it.
Oh, I do. I eat
Salt
tomatoes.
on
Okay.
it.
I eat tomatoes like that all the time.
I literally,
If they're good. If they're good
I like to add some lettuce and bacon to my tomatoes.
Those are my kind of tomatoes.
I don't like
Or-
tomatoes, so I don't eat them.
I didn't know this was a thing, but in the South, there's called tomato sandwiches, just mayonnaise, bread, and tomatoes.
Yep.
Yes.
They have to be fresh enough.
Did you see who it was, John? Your favorite person?
I'm sorry, say again?
Dean just walked in.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they're super spoiled.
Oh my
living in a
God.
dorm
Yeah.
like that. Because when you were living with a roommate and it was just you and the roommate in that room, it was way harder.
Paris doesn't have time for issue for Rory stuff. She has more pressing issue.
Oh, this is the outfit that I always couldn't stand.
Is this the famous episode where you talk about the brands, John?
Yes, this is the one. There's no brands around here. This is all fake. It's all fake.
There was
Look,
sugar in the
potato
raw.
chips.
I saw sugar in the raw. That's real.
And the Pop Tarts.
Oh, those chips are fake.
Maybe they're regional brands.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with coupons, Brian. Or
Was it the horizontal stripes? Because I used to wear shirts like that, right?
That's not a shirt. That's a sweater.
Yeah, that too. Bothers me these people aren't social distancing.
Nobody's social distancing in Ohio, unfortunately, anymore.
I will say that, by the way, just going back, that the sweater didn't look nearly as bad as I remember it.
Were you given options?
No, never. You just walk in there and you see what's hanging there inside your trailer.
You could be wearing Jackson's shirt.
Which shirt was your favorite, John? Was it like the penguin shirt?
Yeah, I love the penguin shirts, and yeah, I like the penguin shirts, and there was also some red seagull shirts in there that I really. I just realized something. That window has to actually have, like, that has to be a fake light coming through there, because the other side of that wall is not the outside. In Lane's room.
Interesting.
But which window?
Both of those, the one in front of her and the one behind her, like on either side of the bed.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to make.
How many years has he been working at Dosie's?
How many seasons are we in?
5 seasons, 5 years.
5 years he has been a bag boy.
Why mess with
He's
perfection?
a stock boy now.
I know that's like I guess stocking is usually like what you want.
Ticks are bad.
I love Lorelai's shirt.
That shirt is awesome.
I love how into it Kirk gets.
Me too. It's really funny.
So fun. Pointless. I never understood the purpose of the 4 people sitting up on the stage with.
Part of the committee, probably.
Yeah.
Or maybe they had
something to do with the earlier part of the meeting that we didn't see.
Yeah, because it was 2 women on each end last episode, I believe.
Oh, I know this. I know that. I know this episode, or not this episode maybe, but this is the beginning of something.
Spoiler.
Yes.
One of the times I've hated Taylor the most.
Go Jackson. Go Jackson.
I love how excited Patty gets about somebody other than Taylor.
Is it this episode?
You?
It is.
It is?
You?
Oh.
Believe it or not.
In my best Alex Kingston Doctor Who voice. Spoiler.
It has so many things in it. It's not even funny.
She grew up real fast.
Yeah, she really grew up from like a 5-year-old into to like a 22-year-old.
I feel like this is the only episode we ever actually meet his mom.
Yeah, it is.
That was real awkward.
Yes,
So
it was.
awkward.
A lot of trophies. Did he bring all those things from Chicago?
Yeah, he certainly didn't get them in Stars Hollow High, did
Do you think he brought them to his apartment with Lindsay?
They're definitely not hockey trophies because they lost every game.
It looks like basketball, I think. Yeah, and I thought I saw baby baseball.
I mean, it's a lot of trophies. A lot.
Maybe they were his grandpa's.
Or those
like inherited.
You think it's before the days that you got a participation for showing up trophy?
His room does have a lot of like random stuff that's not his also.
I like the floor model TV best. Like, who lugged that upstairs?
about 7 very strong guys.
She might as well have just said, she needs to go.
She cracks the door.
My first TV was probably about that big. It was massive.
I never noticed she cracked the door before. That's hilarious.
I feel like that might be the same TV that they use for our TV in our apartment.
I would not have been thrilled to have driven from school to go and sit in a bedroom awkwardly watching TV.
Yeah, I would have just said another.
And I think the TV in the apartment is smaller because I can picture it being turned at some point and it not being that heavy.
Maybe so, yeah.
I love seeing Kirk in a suit. He looks sharp.
That is a sharp suit.
It certainly is.
It's got to be his dad's suit, though, right? Because it doesn't fit.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a little ill-fitting for a suit.
Oh, that is definitely a hand-me-down. Either a sibling or his dad.
It's brother number 8. Look how short the pants are. I just noticed that.
I never noticed his pant legs. I know they say it, but I never noticed it.
If they weren't dating, do you think he would have let her set up shop?
Heck no. I don't think it would have mattered. Nope. She would have done it anyway.
Yep.
He just wouldn't have been as civil.
I wonder if somebody actually grabbed the little, if the little baby's arm was being kind of forced in that, because that seems weird that they would have gotten the baby to clap.
Suki's like the perfect first lady type.
I don't know. I feel like it's actually very common for babies that age to clap.
Yeah, I think so.
And
on cue, though? On cue? I mean,
yeah, you just have to tell them.
Somebody else was clapping off to the side, and they probably drew it too, or making them excited.
I don't know. It's tough to get a good shot.
It probably took 20 takes.
Yeah. I don't know if they would spend 20 takes if they could just grab his arm and just
maybe that baby was just a winner. He's a born actor.
I was just thinking that baby is an adult now.
Oh my God, that makes me feel so old.
Yeah, don't say that.
At least 17, 18.
Yeah,
maybe 16,
what year
17.
is this? My son
2004.
Okay. Yeah. My
So
son's
like
2005, he's 16.
17, 18, something like that.
Over 20, right? Because they had their 20-year anniversary for Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, but this season is in 2004, 2005, something like that. And that baby's not more than a year old. So, like 18, 19, somewhere in there.
So do we think that Taylor was the Democrat and Jackson's the Republican, or vice versa? Or both?
Yeah, at that level, at that local level, is it usually divided like that?
Well, I live in a really small farming community, and here it's generally nonpartisan.
Yeah, that's
Even
what
though we know
I
that
kind of
they're
sensed that it
not-
wasn't really, there wasn't really any party there. Just two people.
Yeah, I think it's just Taylor versus everybody else.
I think the party's right here.
Ouch.
This is the most awkward, uncomfortable makeout session ever.
But it's like so high school.
She has a Prius, and he's so tall.
Man, he really is scowling. Like, just so much scowling from that guy.
It's interesting that she doesn't feel comfortable bringing him home either.
Oh yeah.
Ouch.
Ooh, ouch, indeed.
She said the same thing though to Jess about not wanting to rub it in his face or Dean's face.
I was just thinking.
That's true. She did.
Kelly, does your small town have stickers for that say that you voted?
Yes, we do. I actually worked the polls last year.
For that, even for like this level, for just this type of thing, or I guess they're all in the same election, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
unlike Stars Hollow, our little town elections are on the same day as the state elections.
Got it.
Well, and the ballots are usually kind of printed the same, and the stickers usually come in with the ballots when they're delivered.
Actually, I'm in Nevada, so we have electronic ballots.
Oh my gosh, I remember this.
Your face.
I was gonna say that. Also,
face is
the
my favorite.
striped tie with the camo t-shirt.
Yes.
That's a look.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Mix match matters.
I love this outfit on you. It's one of my favorites that you wear.
I like ranged.
Me too.
Me also.
Wooden tiki masks. Okay.
I'm sorry, but my style is awesome in this.
Totally.
That is.
It's
that
the
is
camo
great
shirt
style.
and the tie that's like everything.
I want to know what's on the tie tack. I keep missing it.
Why wouldn't they have listened to the song prior to being back?
Because they're just so
They may have
good,
just
they don't
gotten it.
need to.
I don't know that they're all that organized, so they may have just gotten it.
Yeah, Suki's the first lady.
It is a cool look. It says, "I want to hide in the woods, but I want to do it as a prep." I can't see what to type in it.
And there's more than one. There's like one at the top and then one in the middle.
Brad or John, do you remember what to type?
I don't. But I can't wait for our next scene.
One of my favorite Kirk lines ever.
Suki's look after though. Did you see
Hilarious. I wonder whose pants they are then. His dad's?
Probably.
Brother number 12.
Poor Taylor.
I do kind of feel bad for Taylor.
I know.
Oh my goodness, this is very sad. What is he drinking?
It's canned whipped cream.
It's canned whipped cream.
That's awesome.
He did say that the whipped cream shot, that was impromptu though.
Oh yeah, I forgot he said that. He said that at the virtual fest last year.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
everybody. Oh yeah.
Here's your shining moment.
Thank you, my life.
This was one of the more exciting. This was one of the more exciting moments on the whole series. Oh, hey, look, there's our little logo. We're out there. You could just see it very briefly. That was a trivia question, but you could see it right there, right there. Hep Alien. We're out there.
I saw it.
There it is. That's awesome.
I thought the only place that they show that is in a later episode. It's there.
I always wondered if Miss Kim participated and came to see Lane during this, or if she just stayed home.
I don't think she participated.
I don't think.
Geographically speaking, she could just watch it from her front lawn because she's just really right across the street.
Yes. I wonder if she closed her curtains and just ignored it and put ear plugs in, or.
Oh my gosh, this is so awesome.
This is the first real band performance.
It's funny they positioned you sort of behind Zach.
Face.
Suki has no sympathy whatsoever.
Her outfit is very dusty.
Oh my goodness.
Go Gil.
That's a wonderful fake playing he's doing.
Dave Rogowski.
I'm just saying Gil pulled off the look.
Jimi Hendrix flashback.
Man, y'all were rocking it out.
Man, that was a good performance.
I don't know. Lane doesn't seem very happy.
You're rocking away out there.
He sure does.
Seem a little bit uptight there, Brian.
Yeah, I was doing very nervous. But I think there's more in this episode with us.
You? So awkward.
Kiss.
The lipstick on his face.
I never noticed that before.
Me either. That's actually really funny. I never noticed it either.
It's not very dark, but like you can totally see it's.
Oh, Jackson. He's blabbing because he's so nervous. I love him.
An honest man.
Are you drinking a beer?
Yeah.
Lane is so jealous right now.
Brian is awful.
That's the best.
They put a little sound effect of me like slurping.
Oh, snap.
That was bold.
Way to go, Lane. Props to her.
I love how he just doesn't even know how to react to.
That was funny.
He's basically numb to it. Yeah, he doesn't react.
So much for not flaunting it.
That okay, total.
His face says it all.
Yikes.
Yep, and no, he wouldn't have.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Yikes.
How they give the numbers, that's so like we.
He's drunk. He's drunk on the whipped cream.
He did whippets.
I was gonna say he did the fume.
That's it. Ask for a recall election and then insult everybody you want to vote for you.
Jackson looks thrilled.
I wonder if Kirk had all those jobs because Taylor is trying to keep him busy.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good point.
I love this part.
Me too.
I guess we'll talk a little bit about that. Good stuff.
Okay, I have to say that now that they're like not talking, but in the scene where Rory and Dean were talking, the same person behind them was in both shots. And I just like, I know that's totally not even like something we're supposed to pay attention to, but I was like, she's literally like very prominent in both shots.
I'm going to open up the couch. We are opening up in 3, 2, 1. Open for business. Yeah.
Hey, can I just say a couple things because I actually have to bounce because my friends are back from their trip and I'm actually headed home in a few.
Oh, hold on one second. Yes, you wanted to talk about something in the episode.
Well, yes, but I just wanted to make it quick because I'm actually headed home.
Okay, great.
This may sound weird, but Luke having bedhead he actually looks pretty good with bedhead. But that's not the only thing I want to say. I was actually talking with Charlie and Kathy Ann simultaneously throughout this episode. I really hated how Dean was kind of rude, to say it very nicely, when Rory was asking him to like come meet her at the rally, because like she wasn't trying to parade the relationship. She just like wanted him to hang out with her. And someone made a comment saying that like it's kind of a comparison to what she said to Jess in the Thanksgiving episode. And I slightly disagree, because the reason why she didn't want to like flaunt her relationship is because she was just nervous, because she had just broken up with Dean and she just didn't know how to do the whole like second boyfriend thing and all that, and they weren't having an affair and things like that. So, and also I loved the band scene. It was always one of my favorite band episodes, and your scenes, John, were hilarious, especially the jazz part. But yeah, I gotta go. This has been a great episode. I will be back tomorrow. So, and I'll put a couple more of my thoughts in the app. So, but yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks.
My daughter.
Bye, Tasha.
Bye.
In response to that, they were saying that there's physical affairs and there's emotional affairs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, true, but still. All right, bye guys.
They're physical affairs and T, what'd you say? Emotional affairs?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
trust me, don't I know?
That is very true. Yeah.
Also, don't forget to harvest. It's not now, but it will be soon.
22 minutes.
Hi guys.
Bye, Tasha. So let's do we want to use that as a jumping off point to talk about I mean, I guess we're in that headspace right now. Let's talk about Rory and Dean.
Can I please start, unless you want to start, John?
Yeah, no, let's hear it.
Awesome. I was so sad not to be couch, but this is an amazing episode. But like, I wanted to slap him repeatedly across the face because that scene was just so horrible. First, it's like he gets mad because they can't hook up in the car, and then he throws a little tantrum, and then he's like getting mad at her as if he's not the one who like had the wife issue, and he's like, we're gonna parade our relationship, and like he's yelling at her, and it's like it's his pattern to like yell when things aren't like going his way or he's like insecure about something.
I don't really register it. I didn't really register it as yelling. He's certainly got, I mean, I understand way more how everyone feel, early on talking about him whining a lot. And I sort of get all of that. I think my biggest problem is that, and I say this understanding that like, what happened between these two is really like, it's, just so much has happened in such a short period of time. Emotions are really high. There's a lot of just a lot of craziness happening in between, between these two and in their families and whatnot. So we have to keep that in mind, that like, I think that these characters are kind of at their worst, and he in particular is at his worst. There's no doubt about that. I think my biggest. I was going to say, just my biggest, I guess my biggest thing is that like, he really was like, he's feeling really bad for Lindsay right now, which is understandable that he would feel bad for her, but he's taking it out on Rory as if it's Rory's fault for why this happened.
Well, and the reason why I had mentioned about the parallel with Jess is I feel like there was just a lot of attention that was on them. Like you could kind of see it with, the way Paris was responding to him showing up at the apartment, the way his mom responded to her showing up at the house. And so I think they were both very much aware that like eyes were on them. And part of the reason why he didn't want to go to like Luke's or anything like that. And I feel like that was similar with Rory, is that part of it was the guilt, but part of it was also recognizing like there's a lot of eyes on me right now. And so that feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's understandable. But he's like, he's certainly like,
he's certainly suggesting, indicating, and behaving around Rory like he's upset with Rory, like that he sort of feels like it's Rory's fault in a way, or that Rory's pushing this too much or something.
He's upset with her when he can't get something from her, and then he's all nice again because he's like, oh, well, now she's gonna be mad at me. It's annoying.
What is he trying to get from her though? In that, like, because I sort of interpreted it, I mean, I don't know. I'd love to hear some other thoughts before I sort of know how I feel about that whole thing, but I guess I need more clarity to like really put my own feelings into words.
I get what Lily
I feel like he's angry with himself, and that comes out as anger towards Rory. You know, when she first came back from, and I'm sorry I interrupted Zach. We both jumped in at the same time there. When she first comes back to Europe, and he's like, you know, like, I left my wife, you know, her life is destroyed, you know, like my parents are upset, and so I think he has a lot of anger towards himself that he allowed this to happen, and I think it translates as anger towards Rory.
I also, I agree with that. That makes a lot of sense that he's angry at himself, and that anger is sort of is sort of coming out like all over the place, and whoever's in the like the line of fire gets hit by it. I sort of feel like I might need to adjust my stance on that last moment from last night's episode, because now that I kind of have been inside the house and kind of get a sense for the tone inside the house, I'm less feeling like Rory and Dean, like that Rory showed up there last night to have sex with Dean.
Yay!
Yeah, but I mean, I needed to see this episode for it to make sense.
Wait, John, what's your stance now?
Oh, that they probably just went into his room and just chatted and maybe watched some television, and it was super awkward. And like at some point, his mom got up and and walked over and said something, and they had to there's just no way that it would have happened.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Can't you see the mom coming and reopening that door?
Yeah, but last night it did feel like that. But to me, it felt like that in that last moment, and I think that might just be me relying on tropes, because we've seen tropes like that. You know, the person opening the front door with the other, no words, move to the side, person comes in, like we kind of know what's going to happen. That's just a narrative trope. But like Diana and Mary, to their point yesterday, that like if you sort of look past that trope and you think about like what's their situation, where are they at, it makes a lot more sense if you think about it, that there would be like discussion, these two would need to talk and whatnot, and then I just couple it with like seeing inside of the house, seeing that there's like his sister there and his parents are there, and there's a lot of sensitivity right now in that household to what's going on. I can't imagine that they would.
And I think what we're seeing as anger is actually more frustration. I don't think he's angry. I think he's frustrated at feeling trapped and not knowing what to do about it. And that sense of feeling like he was married, he was quote unquote an adult, and now he's back to being a boy in his parents' house.
Yeah.
I think there's a level of insecurity in that.
I'm sure his parents and maybe even others in the town have also maybe expressed some disappointment, about his actions. And so he's feeling that as well, almost like an embarrassment type feeling. But yeah, I think frustration, is definitely something that he is feeling too. But I think the fact that he is vulnerable and showing that shows that he actually has a conscience. So I think that's actually a strength of Dean's that we see, because he could have been like, oh, well, and been selfish about it. But I think he's realizing the weight of what he has done and how it's affected not only Lindsay, but, his whole entire family. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
That's
I
well
agree
said,
with
Diane.
that.
Do you would you say that also
agree
shows
with
the
that.
strength and actually trying to go out with Rory and venture? Or not?
Say again.
What was
Oh
that?
no, I thought Diane brought up a good point. It shows his strength and shows his vulnerability, but the fact that he is going out and then trying to brave all that, I think that does show a little bit of the strength.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he should have done the way things happen, but it's I think it says something about that he's investing into. He's attempting to invest in the Tyler.
Yeah. I think that Jared played that moment at the concert, the rally. Would that be a rally? Concert, rally, I guess.
Rally, yeah.
Yeah, rally. He played that moment he made a very specific choice as an actor, to play that moment like he had, like his thoughts had been caught. That's how I read it. That Dean knows that he wouldn't have broken up with her, and suddenly was nervous about having, that he was caught in that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. Because I picked up on that as well.
Why do you suppose Rory didn't bring him back to her house in Stars Hollow, with where her mom was? Do you think that she felt uncomfortable, or do you think she would have thought that there would have been judgment from her mom? What do you think the reason behind that would have been?
I think she would have felt judged by her mom. She even, kind of picked up on how Lorelai even asked how Dean was.
I think also that we have to remember that she knows that her mom is in a brand new relationship with Luke, or a semi-new relationship, and she doesn't want to screw that up for her mom. So she doesn't want it to be awkward that there's another couple that she might be interrupting something that she doesn't want to see.
That's a fair point.
Also true too. Very good point. But I definitely also believe that she felt like she might get judged by Lorelai bringing Dean home, because she already knows that Lorelai isn't very comfortable with them being together. So I think she definitely feels that Lorelai will judge her.
Do we really think that Lorelai is judging her though? Lorelai's made some decisions. I think, she's being a mom too, but it's if any parent, you never want your kids to repeat or make similar mistakes than you, but at some point you got to let them live their life and just be there to support them when they do mess up. So
no, I agree with that, but I don't think that Lorelai is there yet, and I think that Rory can sense that, and for that reason, Rory wouldn't bring him around her, because I think that Lorelai would judge it.
I disagree. I don't think Lorelai would judge it in this in a way that Rory would be confronted with. I think Rory is judging herself. Been in the back of her mind, so that's why she's not doing it, because she knows that this is not ideal, and I think she's judging herself way more harshly than Lorelai would, because Lorelai would just welcome her with our open arms and it would be fine, but she would have to confront the issue, because Lorelai also wouldn't sugarcoat it for her, but she would be loving, but she wouldn't sugarcoat it. But I think Rory is judging herself. And that's why she's not mixing the two things.
I agree.
But I gotta disagree with that because she makes that snide remark of you have classes in the morning. So I think if she had brought him home that night, Lorelai would have made or Rory would have seen that Lorelai was judging her as to why are you bringing him now? Why did you come over? There was this sort of thing of like, why isn't he prioritizing you versus you having to bend over backwards to make time or opportunities for him?
Yeah, I do agree with that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that like Rory knows that's what the reaction is. So that's why she's not bringing him, because she's like, she doesn't want to hear it, like, you know, or she doesn't want to face it. She knows like it, you know, she has to deal with it. And I think that's her own judgment of her own situation. She knows it's bad. And like Lorelai says that, and like that's what she would say in the back of her mind too, I think, because Lorelai and her, like Lorelai's always been her conscience. Like she knows what her mother's going to say before she says it. That's like been a constant the whole time. And so like, even in the beginning, like, I'm not even going to tell Lorelai that like Dean kissed me in the, you know, in Joseph's Market. She'll, you know, like she'll say this, she'll know, she'll do, you know, like she chooses when to hide things from her mother or like not confront her mother with it because she knows what she's going to say. They know each other really well. That's what I think.
Well, I think that's a really good analogy, Diana.
I think that you're right, Diana, that she's judging herself. I don't know whether I can say whether she's judging herself more than Lorelai would be judging her. I'm not really totally there. I can't really say for sure that I feel that she would, but I definitely think Lorelai would judge her. Like, even if it's to a lesser degree, I really do. And part of it is just the sheer fact that the last time Dean was in that house, Lorelai was extremely judgmental of the situation, right? Like, Dean has not been there since then. And the last time they had just had sex. And I think that if Lorelai saw him come into the house again, it would be hard for her not to think about the last time that he was in the house, which led to this big blow up and led to Lorelai letting her feelings out. And maybe Lorelai wouldn't vocally judge her, you know, but I think Lorelai would be judging, and I think that her daughter, who knows her very well, would feel it.
That scene where she talks about how she's the one who has classes early in the morning, I sort of always got some Emily vibes from that. Like, I found it sort of passive aggressive, and I feel like Lorelai is already aware, like, when she's going to get sort of judged by her parents, even if they may not do it as directly. I mean, usually they do, but there's sometimes some passive aggressiveness to it. And I think Rory can pick up on the same thing. And she just knows, I don't feel like dealing with that response right now.
Not to mention, who wants to have sex in their parents' house and she might come home? Ew, that's gross.
Also, they've already done that. And it was
they have done it.
Right.
It's crime. Yeah, I was just thinking more along the lines of, if they're going to watch TV, you know, rather than crouch down on the bottom of his twin bed watching a TV and waiting for it to warm up for 3 minutes, you know, like, why not go somewhere where you feel a little more comfortable, but it shows that she doesn't feel comfortable there.
Maybe also it's the scene of the crime, right? Like, it's the thing that set everything into motion. So maybe it's just like very difficult to bring Dean over just to watch TV, because it's like it's where the thing happened that put them in this position, and where then she had a really bad fight with her mom, and not even a fight, but like a moment of break where she felt like they weren't on the same page. And that's really devastating for Rory. Every time that happens, it's really devastating for Rory that she and her mom are not agreeing, or maybe her mom is pointing something out that she knows is true. Like, you know, like whenever they fight, it's really devastating. And so I kind of feel like maybe that's why, because it's like she can't, like the room down the hall is like where this all started, and it's still awkward and feels bad, and it's not going to be the same Dean that came to watch movies with them on Friday nights and change the water bottle. It's going to be a very different Dean.
That's definitely that's where I land with it. That's how I feel about it.
I wondered that. Okay, no lie, it just feels like Rory is doing the same thing to Dean like she did in season 1, 2, and 3. It just feels the same. They're just having sex. I think that's a big reason why, like, with the relationship, it's, oh yeah, she's not bringing him over to here and this and all this situational stuff. But I mean, at the end of this episode, we see that Dean has, like, he's frustrated and he gets upset. And she's like, gets quiet. It's like, okay. And then, you know, we're like, oh my God, why would you yell at Rory? Rory's so dainty and quiet and cute, like mousy. Like what Paris said in the same episode about, like, if she's out in bed. But then at the end of it, Dean's like, okay, well, I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this. And, you know, we're going to work it out. And he's so optimistic. And then here goes Rory. Yeah. And I'm like, this is just fucking season 1 all over again. I am upset. So I feel like that's probably another factor with this as well, is that just Rory is treating Dean the same way as she did before. But this time, she is whistling for his penis.
Can we talk about Paris, though? Like, where the mass difference between, like, her going to Rory for advice and then where Paris was with her. Like, now she's an expert in.
Well, I just thought Paris was focusing on herself. She was just like, I just don't want to hear it. Which that's why I said I feel like they were spoiled in having a dorm like that.
Oh yeah, Paris. Paris knows now. She has been well versed in the sexual universe.
She's a woman of the world.
Many worlds. Okay, did it in America and the UK. She is
with the printing press.
With the printing press. Thank you, Sandra.
Exactly. She needs to bring her printing press with her. I mean, where else are you going to have that? It's a trademark. They're the only room that has it.
Should we move on to, well,
Lorelai and Luke?
We have two. Yeah, we have two that we can move to. We can move. I mean, I feel like the Lorelai and Luke stuff in this episode was a little bit more like C storyline. Am I wrong?
I'd like
to talk about your band there, John.
I was just going to say, we don't often get a lot the opportunity to really talk about Hebalion.
Oh, you want to talk about Hebalion? Well, first of all, your face when that song was on, John.
Yes, I agree. It's hilarious. Awesome.
I missed the part where your head, where you were decapitated.
Yeah. Yeah, they cut that out. They cut that out for the Netflix versions.
They cut it out.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
That face that I'm making is the same face that I make in the car when Mrs. Kim in season 3 comes up to us and tells us that Lane, you know, tells Dave that, like, Lane has a crush on him and blah blah blah, you know, and Zach and I are, like, utterly confused. You go back to that episode and you take a look at my face there. It's pretty much the same face. I created a face in that episode, and I decided that I was going to bring it back for this episode.
You call it Blue Steel?
It's a great face.
Yeah, it's a good face. No, I think that we should talk a little bit about, I mean, it's not really a deep storyline, but it's a fun storyline. The whole Taylor and Jackson storyline, we don't have to, like, get into deep analysis on it. Obviously, it's like, you know, there's not a ton, except maybe this idea that, like, you know, you sort of get caught up in, like,
in wanting to right a wrong, only to realize like that you kind of you got what you wished for, and it wasn't exactly what you ultimately wanted. But I just thought that was just a really, really fun storyline.
I could just imagine that Taylor was a Republican and Jackson is like a libertarian in the situation.
I like the title because it's called Tippecanoe, because Tippecanoe is like in Ohio anyway. They're actually talking about Indiana, I believe, from the William Henry Harrison general battle, and that was Tippecanoe, and Tyler too was the campaign slogan.
That's right.
So, but Tippecanoe, that was my 6th grade camp, is what it's called, because in the same county I live in, there's like a lake and a campground, and that was my 6th grade camp. So I like the title.
I always feel really, really, really bad for Taylor during this episode, because Jackson has Suki and he has a family, and really, Taylor is town selectman. I mean, he has his shops, but that's really all he has in that town. And in the end, I just feel so bad for him. But I love Taylor, so I kind of have a lot of sympathy for him.
I have a love-hate relationship.
Just remember to
with Taylor.
harvest.
I did feel bad for him, but yeah.
Kendra, I felt bad for him when he was sitting inside of his little soda shop, doing the whippets. But then later, all of that like just evaporated when he went on stage and did that. I guess this is going to be a larger storyline. It's funny because I remember the episode, like shooting the episode, I remember what it was about, because obviously, like, you know, we're a part of a very big scene that has to do with, you know, so I didn't really know anything, you know, I didn't know anything that happened around all of that, right? But I knew that there was like some sort of election with Taylor and Jackson. And if I remember correctly, so not if I remember correctly, I do remember, the whole scene where he comes out on stage and he's like, I don't want to be town selectman. I don't know, you know, and does that whole speech. I was still there. We were still there. We were somewhere close by because I heard all of that, but I wasn't there for the next scene when Taylor comes on stage and there's that whole thing. So I think I always assumed that this episode ended with Jackson sort of deciding at the end of the episode that he doesn't want it anymore and giving it to Taylor right there on stage. Like I in my mind, I always thought that this scene ends with Jackson being like, I don't want this, and then just like walking off stage and everyone just being kind of like, oh, I guess it's Taylor again. And so it's interesting to watch it now for the first time and be like, oh wow, I'm completely wrong. That isn't how it ends. And this is actually a bigger storyline than just this particular episode.
Well, Jackson still wishes Taylor would have won. His face at the end said it all.
Just a kind of a side note, I don't know if anyone else caught it, but the kiss Suki gives Jackson on the stage is kind of a nod to Tipper Gore shoving her tongue down Al Gore's throat during the DNC convention of 2000. Did anybody?
Oh yeah,
I remember.
Yeah.
I do remember.
Yeah, so every time I see this scene, and if you watch it, it's almost like play by play the way Tipper kissed Al Gore. So
that is
Yeah,
funny.
she was even dressed a little bit like Tipper Gore there.
Yeah, the hair and everything.
I love how much Suki got into it. Like, she was really enjoying being that politician wife. She was so happy.
Oh my God. Yeah, Kendra went, yeah, like, okay, Suki's hair, when they were on that stage, she said, stiff is here.
She was
in my hair. That piece was stiff. Got it.
That was funny, man. All of that was just, I think, was just fantastic. The fact that, like, clearly that whole thing with the lipstick, I mean, she didn't actually put that lipstick on his mouth. Like, that wasn't from their kiss. The makeup artists put that lipstick on his lips, you know? I mean, that scene is shot in different parts. And, like, when he's there, you know, talking to the crowd, he's got that lipstick on. It just looks absolutely ridiculous.
For sure.
But who doesn't love Jackson? I mean, come on, we all love Jackson.
That man. Oh, speaking of Jackson, I found out that that's his real name in real life.
It is.
Yes, it is.
It
Jackson,
sure.
Jackson Douglas, yeah.
Every time
He was married to Drella, the harp player.
Alex Borstein, yeah, the woman that, you know, blew up in my mind from Mad TV. But every time I look that up, because, like, I'll forget and then look it up again. I think I've looked it up 4 times in my life because I always forget. I'll be like, really? That's your real name? Wow.
Now, you
What are
really
your-
want to hear, if for those that don't know, is that Alex Borstein was originally supposed to play Suki.
Yeah, that was wild to me.
Yes, we've
Yes.
talked about that a lot in earlier seasons, and in
We
fact,
watched
we've talked a lot.
pilot too.
Yeah, I hosted an event to watch the unaired pilot, and we talked about that at length.
Not to make folks who are coming in new feel like they're totally out of the loop, but you know, we've been watching this for 5 seasons, and we've done all kinds of fun little events in between some of our seasons, and one of them was we all watched the unaired pilot, which we found online. And so we got to see Alex's actual interpretation of that role, which was really fun. We got to talk about Lane and Zach, and Lane and Zach.
Yes.
And we could throw
Yes.
we could throw Brian. We could throw Brian.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's more like Zach and the girls and Lane more than.
I'm awful too.
and also Brian.
And Brian.
He's also there. He's in the room. He's in the room.
I still think Lane and Brian should have been a
I
couple. I think it's harder.
agree.
I think it's harder to believe for me than Lane and Zach. I just don't see it. I think Brian and Lane have more chemistry.
I mean, come on.
I love
that's an example. too.
I don't know if I'd say.
But
Would you say chemistry? I don't know if I'd say chemistry. They definitely. They have a lot in common. They're good friends. They could probably, you know, if they found chemistry, which I can't really see chemistry there, but if they found chemistry, I could see the two being, you know, being in love and staying together for the rest of their lives type thing and having a very happy life together. But as of right now, chemistry? I don't know if I'd say chemistry though.
I feel like they
totally
got
see Lane and Brian together, but I can't say what.
It's probably because probably because the door.
No, I'd say if they spent quality time together, like one-on-one, I think that there would be some chemistry there. I think that it could be created, you know, and I think they would be adorable together. And
Sean,
I believe that.
Shauna, can we define quality time, or is that getting a little too R-rated for this particular one?
No.
Oh my
No.
God.
What I'm saying is that
Do it.
if
Dirty.
it was like dirty. Just dirty.
I was
dirty,
gonna
dirty.
say it, but somebody beat me to it.
We're just
No.
playing. We're just playing.
I would honestly have to say that, like, say that if, like, I don't know, somehow they were sitting on the couch together and they were watching a television program and Zach wasn't there, you know, and they began to talk and everything, and they found out that they really have a whole lot in common, I think there could be a spark that would start, you know, and it would go from there.
I would just like to say, you know what, Shauna, and everybody else that is Team Brian, I 100% agree with you because they somehow have successfully convinced us that Team Zach and Lane works when it was supposed to be Dave and Lane, and then the OC happened. And that's all I got to say on that. But you know what? Congratulations.
Here's something that I'll tell you that's interesting, that you might all find interesting. I'll mention it now because it was around this time when I heard it. I don't know how true it was, but I had heard it through the grapevine, because obviously you're working on a show, you're talking to people who are behind the scenes. I had heard that there was at least discussion about possibly having Brian have a crush on Rory.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I don't know if
now that makes sense.
Where that would have gone. Yeah,
that
where that would
makes
have
sense.
gone, I don't know. Whether they would have done that, and what it would have turned into. Likely, it would have just been sort of a comic thing, But there was discussion. There was discussion about it. I don't know how far the discussion went, but I had heard that through the grapevine.
Oh my
That would
God.
have totally added. It should have been
That would have been really
mentioned
interesting
to
see,
ban
actually.
for Rory.
That would have been
Can I just ask something, Brian?
Brian.
Yep. Since we're talking about Brian so much in this episode. Yeah. No?
No, yeah, of course. Go.
Okay, I was going to say. Okay, so I wanted to know, was this discussed before season 4?
What?
Like Brian possibly having a crush on Rory?
No, it's I remember in my memory, I heard it like I said, through the grapevine, I heard it around this time, like around season 5. So it would have been something that like, and it might have been as simple as just like a writer's room session, and somebody was like, what if Brian had a crush on Rory? You know what I mean? Like, and that might, and maybe somebody was like, well, that's interesting. And then maybe it ended there. But like, I had heard it and I thought it was interesting. And of course, as an actor who, wants to continue working, a part of me was very excited by the prospect that maybe I could, because that would at least be brought in. I doubt that Brian would have ever in a million years been somebody that Rory would have entertained. It would have probably ended up being something similar to the Kirk and Lorelai dynamic. But if it had happened, that would have given me more screen time, and that would have been awesome. But but that I remember hearing it and being kind of like, oh, that's cool. That would be really fun.
Well, it's really cool to see.
Yeah,
but it might have just, they probably would have just manifested itself in like, whenever Rory comes over, I get nervous. You know what I mean? Like it could have been as simple as that. And like I said, I've lost my train of thought. It was just like rumor that I heard. So I also could be wrong, but I just think it's interesting. Even if it was rumor, like the thought that Brian would have had a crush on Rory, I think is kind of cool. Like it's kind of an interesting dynamic,
I feel like it would have been fun to see Brian be even more awkward.
Yeah, it would have probably been that way.
You know what's strange though is that like the only reason why I asked if that was discussed before season 4 was because I don't know, all I can think of is Marty when we talk about that type of storyline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like I think
that dynamic may have been discussed. That might have been kind of like, there's kind of already a little bit of like that seems like it might be a little too similar to what's going on with Marty and her. At least that's the sense that I sort of get. We've got this awkward, nerdy type dude that's there. And like I said, even if it had happened, it may have, if it was true, like again, I don't know if it was true. That's just something I heard. It may not have manifested itself in any more than she happens to be there at the apartment, like talking to Lane, and they have me doing something hilariously comically awkward, you know, tripping in front of her or something, you know what I mean? Something stupid like that.
It's crazy because, like, if that storyline happened on top of the Marty one, I definitely would have called Rory nerd bait. Like, she's a bait for the nerds.
Well, she is nerd bait.
She's nerd bait?
I mean,
come on, y'all, Joe Cap, get it. She nerd bait. Okay.
Wait. I just had something here. Hold on. It'll come back.
Don't worry, we're still here for you. Let's
Hey John, real quick. The only thing I wanted to say, because I was at the track betting on horses during the episode, but this episode is one of my favorite Brian outfits with the camo t-shirt and the tie.
The camo t-shirt and the tie, I said it during the episode. I'll say it again. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's super awesome. Actually, T was asking, like, what's your favorite outfit? Was it I liked these types of things where they literally just went weird, you know, where they just did something absolutely bonkers. I liked all of the Penguin stuff because that's actually my own personal style. I like to wear Penguin shirts, and, you know, that's just that particular, like, preppy, nerdy style has been sort of always similar to my own. But I liked it when they, like, kind of went overboard and they did something like that, like gave me a little suit jacket, or, you know, just like a t-shirt with like a tie. You know, I always thought that was really fun.
I thought it's so unusual looking. Who now, you don't really see people wearing camo t-shirts with ties, and every time I watch this episode, and I actually watched it not too long ago, it just always kind of makes me go, I think that's one of the best outfits.
Fully.
A couple of years ago, there was like a popular thing to wear white t-shirts and like black ties for guys that, like, I remember going to see bands, and that was like a thing to wear. But this was only like, this was you're ahead of your time, I think, because this was probably like in 2008 or something.
Well, I mean, I wasn't ahead of my time. That was
they were
the
costume then.
the costume designer is, like, you know, Valerie, well, really Brenda. Brenda was the one who really, like, I mean, she really, and Brenda and I were really good friends on set. And I feel like I developed a really close bond with Brenda very quickly, because Brenda just really liked costuming for my character, because she felt like my character was the closest in terms of costume, like was like the closest to Dan Palladino. And, you know, I think that she kind of had fun, you know, paying a little bit of homage to his style and his taste. And so, you know, I remember I just would always, like, if the outfit wasn't there in my trailer when I got there, you know, then usually it was like there was a note for me to go to the trailer, because she had some stuff that she wanted to, like, try, like a couple of different things that she wanted to try. She always just seemed like she just was really excited, you know, like to pull out some funky little t-shirt or funky little button up or pullover or something, you know. But, you know, but like I said, you know, that sweater, when I saw that thing and when I put it on, I remember just being like, ugh. And it's the only thing ever in the entire series that I remember, and I just to this day just remember how much I just didn't like it. You know, I just didn't like the look of it, the fit of it, any of that kind of stuff. Which, you know, it's funny. I'm not like really all that much of like a fashion person. You know, maybe I was a bit more conscious of style back then, but for whatever reason, I just really didn't like it. But now I'm seeing it after all these years, and I'm like, it doesn't look that bad. It actually looks kind of in the style of a lot of the other Brian stuff. But I remember feeling like it wasn't when I put it on. I felt like it wasn't in that same, you know, penguin-y kind of weird, fun, funky style. I thought it was like a little, like, I don't know.
Do you think that Stan would know about the whole Brian and Rory situation?
I can ask him. I don't know if he would, because I don't know. Was Stan in the writer's room that year, or was Stan a writer that they brought on? That I don't know. I need to ask him.
Yeah, that's a WB question.
because there's a difference, right? Like every like the union, the writers guild requires shows to bring in a non-writers room writer, I believe. It's a union requirement that like every season there needs to be one that is not part of your writers room. I'm not completely 100% sure that that's true, but I feel like it is, and I don't know if he was. He wrote 2 episodes, so that might suggest that he was in the writers room that season. But if he was in the writers room that season, he might know. I mean, I'm certainly not. I won't be shy to ask him. But and as I said, I mean, I could be wrong. Like I said, it's just something that I heard. I don't want to say who I heard it from, but I did hear it.
Hey, John, you know what I heard?
What?
That Luke and Lorelai are dating.
Really? Because I didn't notice it.
See, I didn't notice it either. I thought they were still friends, but it looks like it's pretty popping.
Is it? I mean, this episode there wasn't really much of it.
So I actually,
it was there.
I was curious why you said that, John, when you did, because I thought that whole last scene with them was really interesting, because it was like Lorelai kept forgetting all these things about Luke, and it really kind of showed like how different they are, because Luke remembered everything about her, but she couldn't even remember that he didn't like champagne when he had just said that to her, on their date.
Well, no, I'm not suggesting that like there wasn't something interesting going on in the episode about them. I just felt like their storyline was like in third position, if you were to just like look at the actual storylines themselves. There was just very little that we got about that. But of course that last moment is like, that's why I said when it was happening, I said, oh, we're going to talk about this afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I've been saying it that we need some conflict. We need something to threaten this relationship, and I'm starting to see that maybe it could be not like at least some part of the conflict may be coming not from external forces, but might be coming from internal forces.
I have actually like almost the exact opposite feeling about that last scene, because I feel like Lorelai is trying harder because so she didn't remember the champagne thing, but the last thing she said was, I'm learning. Like she is paying attention now. She's starting to pay attention to, he goes to bed early. Yeah, he doesn't like champagne. I'll remind myself of that, So that's how I felt about it.
Yeah, although it does at the very least tell us, whether she remembers or she doesn't, it does tell us that she's very different from him. That there are aspects to just their lifestyle, the things that they find important that might actually not mesh. For all you fans who are kind of like, Luke is my end all be all, I love Luke, and I get it, but that's what it seems to be suggesting there in that moment.
Yeah, but every time we have a discussion about like the men in Lorelai's life, and we always end up going back to Luke. I mean, we don't stop at Jason, we don't stop at Max, we don't stop at Alex, we don't stop at Chris, we end up circling back around and going directly back to Luke. When we open a scenario, we go, okay, well, she's, what if she married Max? Well, then they'd probably end up divorced because of something with Luke.
Yep.
I mean, we always seem to circle back to Luke.
Yeah, I know, but my question is that just because we want that, is that because it's the right relationship? Like that I guess what I'm suggesting here is that it's possible that our wishful thinking might actually clash with the reality of these two, right? I don't know if that's the case because I haven't seen really much further than this, but I will say that this was the first moment where I thought, oh, maybe these two are not actually right for each other. And we've just wanted them to be right for each other, but they're just not. And I mean, I think that's just interesting because that's conflict. I mean, that's conflict, that's internal conflict. Maybe they can become good for each other, right? Like over the course of the series, maybe that's part of the conflict that these two are going to have to overcome. And there may be, like I said, there may be other conflict. There may be some external conflict. I think that there's some external conflict coming just based on some of the things that I remember being on set. I've mentioned that, but am I like, is anybody with me on this?
I am.
You know,
I agree. I
Oh,
think it's really interesting because I'm not a writer, so I don't always think that way, but I think that's a really astute thing because when you said it, like, oh, we're going to talk about this, I was like, it's so small, but I totally get what you're saying is that like it's just a small thing that's a device to sort of put, to get us thinking about these two, like, just to get, they're literally not on the same schedule. So like, I like that. And, and we know Lorelai so well, and she's not an early riser, kill early, hate early. So like, that's one of the things that we know about her and love about her. And so for him to like go to bed early, it's like it's so different than who she is. And I love that it makes us feel like, oh, maybe they're not on the same page. Like, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because because two things could have happened there. She could have said, you know what, do you mind if I come in and I stay the night, right? Like, me come onto your schedule. Like, I'll go to sleep. We'll go to sleep. I'll ditch that thing downstairs. Or the opposite. He could have been like, you know what? Yeah, I do have to wake up early tomorrow, but yeah, let me come on down and we'll do a little toast, but that didn't happen. They both were like, okay, like, yeah, now I'll remember, I'll see you. Okay, bye. Like,
but
there was a little bit.
Speak to them.
It ended on the two of them divided, I guess is what I'm saying. Just from like a visual perspective and a thematic perspective, like, sure, I know what you're going to say, Mary. Sure, you could interpret that as like these two are good for each other because they know what each other needs in the moment. But thematically, visually, it does say something about them, which is that they're like Diana said, they're not on the same schedule. They're not in sync, and that feels dangerous.
I was going to say, if they're accepting. I was going to say, doesn't that show that they're accepting of one?
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I thought that you that you were saying. Yeah, I think that you can argue that for sure, but that's not how it looks. That's very different from everything that we've seen so far, which is this like tight knit, we're together kind of thing. And so I feel like there's so much more to this. This relationship's new. I'm not suggesting that like, oh my God, it's over now because this one thing happened. But it is this first moment of like, I'm just kind of shook a little bit, like, oh, maybe things aren't as perfect. It isn't as simpatico. It isn't so synced as I thought it was. And that does get me thinking, well, then there are challenges. There are internal challenges for these two, which I like that. I think that's cool. That's what makes for good story. And that's, I personally, I need that. I can't go episode to episode just being kind of like, these two are perfect for each other. I'll just get bored of that.
So John, that's actually it's really interesting because, you know, when I first watched the show when it came out, obviously I was super excited at the end of season 4, like when they kissed, but I remember, you know, the beginning of season 5, and maybe it was this episode, all of a sudden kind of feeling like, I don't know if I like them together anymore, which I know is basically blasphemy, I feel like now, but yeah, there was something that felt off to me that I don't know if I really liked.
Did they,
at this
did they
stage.
kiss? Did they kiss?
What, Luke and Lorelai?
Here,
kissed at the
yeah.
end of season
When
4.
they said goodnight. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They did kiss.
Yeah, a couple times.
I mean, okay, so I mean, just because they don't think at that very moment, I mean, you can attest, John, I can attest to this. Not every with your wife, with my ex-husband, or any relationship that I've had, we're not always going to be in sync every single day. And we're not always going to get what the other person.
Absolutely. 100%. That's totally true. But in story, when that's like used, when we see that in story, and especially when we see it in the moment of the story that we saw it in, which was the last moment of the episode, we have to at least respect that as being as having some significance. You know, like there's a reason that we ended on them not together. You know, that like that we're supposed to recognize something, even if it is something as simple as these characters are still figuring it out, which in and of itself says something, which is they're not yet there, right? Like, and that's enough, you know, for us to like at least be hanging on to the story, because I don't want them to be there. I have to be honest with you. I don't want them to be there, because if they're there, the story's over. You know, like, you know, I need to know that there's more story here. I need to know that, you know, especially if I want them to be there, then I have to at least feel like there's something that's keeping me going. Because if I'm just like, oh, they're together, everything's good, everything's fine, like there's no internal or external conflicts with this, then why am I watching it? Like, you don't want. I'd like to end the story there.
Do you think that they bookended it? Sorry, I'm just thinking along the lines that you're talking about, John, and now I'm rethinking the intro.
Yeah.
Where
I mean, I think
he wants to be in the restaurant and he wants to cook at home.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, 100%. We're seeing it from the get-go that, like, you know, from the get-go, not gecko. From the get-go. From Geico. No, we're seeing it from the beginning that these two have different ways of living, and that they appreciate different things, and that isn't always like the sign of a failed relationship. But at this point, and remember, you've watched the show, I haven't watched the show, so I'm coming at it from somebody who doesn't know what's going to happen. You know, like, that just tells me that I might need to worry, because sometimes two people who can't sync aren't ever able to find it, you know, and then it falls apart.
You know, my favorite thing about this, John, about this whole conversation?
What?
Is that I think what you should do, since, you know, you've paid attention to, we've all paid attention for Saturday and everything, put some goddamn kernels on it. Absolutely. I want you to put your worries into a bucket of kernels.
But what am I betting on? Because I'm not betting that they're not going to be together. I'm not even saying that they aren't meant to be together, or whatever that means. You know,
you're gonna bet on if there's something to worry about.
That right here, narratively, right here, this moment makes me feel nervous, especially given the fact that I do like them together and want them to be together and know how much they like each other, and you know, and so that danger, of course, you know, it's exciting. It's part of what makes me want to keep watching the show to see whether or not they will be able to make it through any of that. And it's, you know, I don't want to overplay it. It's not like it wasn't a massive thing, but it was something that I noticed. And it was something that gave me a little unease there at the very end. And yeah, I'll put some kernels down.
Yes. This is going to be all season 5. I'm telling you, I don't have to talk very much about season 5 because things are happening and they're just going to keep happening. It's a never ending roller coaster with the season. And we just getting started. Okay. They just put the little latch thing down on us. We haven't even went go yet.
I
am so excited to hear you go.
Coral is making that deal. Carl's making that deal.
Is the wager then if they're going to break up or what?
I can't really.
You can't really say with that one yet.
I can't really say. I mean, my gut. I know. I mean, here's the thing: is that like I'm spoiled on like I'm spoiled at the very least on actors coming back for the revival. So there's some stuff that I'm kind of like, I kind of think I know what's going on. I kind of think I know what's going to happen. And like I said, I remember David being on set during later seasons. I kind of am like, if I remember correctly, there is something else in Lorelai's, like there's more and different love there. So what's going to happen with, there's part of me that's like, of course, kind of trying my best to like piece together little bits of stuff that I kind of remember and see if I can't like, figure things out. But I do know without needing to figure anything out, story needs conflict. And this is the story of Luke and Lorelai, and it needs conflict. And I'm starting to see it here. That's it.
We never really actually.
Oh, no, because I'm going to go off topic. So go ahead.
I was going to go off topic too, because we never really talked about Lane and Zach.
Right. We started to talk about Lane and Zach, and then we just got sucked into the power of Brian.
So can I bring us back to that, and then we can be the jumping point of that? I just want to say that, like, it just dawned on me that now that Brian and Zach are living with Lane, and now that they have done this concert, you guys are full-fledged townies.
That is true. Yep. We are townies. We weren't really townies before. Like we didn't really get a sense we knew where any of them were from or what they were, anything. And it's true. Like Brian and Zach are townies. They live in the apartment together, and that apartment is actually like within walking distance, within a stone's throw of that stage, by the way.
And you've been sucked into all the politics and drama of the town. So like, that's it. You guys are townies. You belong to Stars Hollow now. Congratulations.
Yoo-hoo! Okay, so here's the thing. So this was something that I was sort of, and by the way, after we talk about this, I'm going to have to get going. But this was something that I wanted to mention last episode, but didn't. But I think it's good to mention it here. This whole idea that like Lane wouldn't be aware that she likes Zach. How, without like just a bombarding of your mics, take a moment after I say this. How realistic is that for somebody to not know that they have a crush on somebody else?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very realistic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It happened to me for it happened to me, and then it hit me and I was like, oh wow, like okay, this is weird. But okay. And it didn't pan out for me, but I was like, wow, like it took me, like I actually fell in love with someone, and it took me for that person to tell me that for him to tell me that he was in love with his girlfriend, for me to realize, oh crap, like that's how I feel about you. Like I had no idea really, like at all. It was very bizarre, but yeah. So yeah, it's very, very easy.
How bizarre.
It's very Luke. It's very Luke can see her face.
Very Luke can see her face.
Right. Okay.
I had a total, like, I hated this person for like a good 7 months, just loathed his very face. And then one day I turned around, I was like, oh, damn it. I think I'm in love with him. And then we dated for 2 years. So it happened.
Okay.
I wonder.
So
I sort of wondered though how much of it was she didn't know that she didn't want to admit it because she knew about all the potential problems.
But that's not how it was sort of presented in last episode. There was that last episode where she's like, what? And then like the girl's like, and then she walks out, and then you see this look on Lane's face that's like, oh my goodness, which didn't look like, oh my goodness, I really don't want to like him, even though I've always known that I have, but looked more like, oh my goodness, I think I like him.
Yeah, that's how it happened with me. I couldn't stand him, and then someone was like, are y'all together? I was like, no, what the heck are you talking about? And then I was like, oh no.
I thought it was interesting how Zach always has these girls, you know, kind of like swarming around him, and maybe Lane felt somewhat inferior, even though she didn't really have a reason to, but maybe she was kind of feeling that way. But then all of a sudden we see this moment where she gains this confidence and speaks up and actually shares, you know, her real feelings with him. So I just thought that was a really powerful and
it reminded me of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I also love that moment. I think, you know, watching it as a young person, it was so powerful as a, you know, a younger girl, just being like, oh, you can tell people how you feel about them. Cool. Like, you know, like it was very much a cool Lane moment where we see her, because Diane, you have such a great point. Like, you know, she feels a little inferior, and I don't think it's just about the girls. I think Lane kind of feels a little teeny tiny bit inferior to the band, because she's like, can I do this? Is like, am I doing this? Is this cool? Like, am I cool? You know, like the whole time, even though she's getting more and more comfortable with it as we watch. But I think it like kind of goes along with that. And then, you know, Lane's really come into her own. You know, she is not just super cool and super confident in the band, but now she can like actually assert herself with a you know, like romantically, which is really cool. And the way she lays it out is like, here's the information. If you are cool with that, like you have time to think about it, but like here's the information, that's the end, and I'm good. And you know, now it's on you to just.
Okay, so let me stop you there because so I need some clarity. Was she basically giving him like a choice to make? Because it didn't strike me as, you know, but again, like I'm coming from the perspective, probably from the male perspective, you know, having an easier time putting myself into his shoes than hers. But it sounded more to me like she was just telling him this information that she needed him to know. Are you saying that she was actually, in a way, like telling him, I want us to be together and you need to make that decision? And if he decided no, what would that mean?
Well, she says earlier, I'm not really sure. She says earlier in the episode when she's on the phone with Rory that, you know, she like she's in this frustrating position because he's bringing girls over and she kind of hates it, and she's not, you know, like it's her home too, right? Like that's the other thing, is that she lives there and she's uncomfortable with it, but he has every right to do it because he doesn't know that I like him. And she sort of gives Rory the idea that like Zach wouldn't do that to me just as his roommate if he knew my feelings, which is, you know, kind of nice. So, you know, she's sort of like, I have to make it known so that, you know, I'm not uncomfortable anymore, like with this situation. So I think that's why she does it.
Okay, that makes
yes.
I think it's kind of cool, because that kind of then it's not like she's necessarily saying I want to be with you, but she's sort of saying like, this is hard for me, and I just want to know, I want you to know why it's hard for me, and hopefully that will alleviate itself, at least in that you won't be rubbing this in my face constantly.
I must say, what she did was she was very direct and to the point. It reminded me of her mother. So when she did that, I wasn't even thinking anything of confidence and stuff. Like each time I would watch the scene, I was like, oh yeah, just like her mother. Like I just thought of it as just like a natural thing. because she grew up with that type of, that type of directness and, to the point manner, like Mrs. Kim has done with like sales and talking to like the townspeople of Stars Hollow, just to the point and God.
Yeah. I'm going to make some folks moderators, and then I am going to head out. This was a really cool episode, really great discussion. Thank you, all of you, for watching with me and for this really awesome post show. I will be back tomorrow. Something, by the way, any of you who were, it's another app thing that I forgot to mention. Any of you who were experiencing a problem with your app not actually loading at all, like there were a few people who were getting these like black or white screens, that has been resolved. Your app on, if this is an iPhone thing, your app on your iPhone should work. I know a few of you updated to the updated your phone and then it worked. It was an issue of earlier iPhone iOS is not being able to access the phone, and by updating your iOS, it did resolve the issue. But for those of you who didn't update your iOS, it is now resolved even for you as well. And if any of you who that happened to, if any of you lost your streak because of it, and I hope that like if you tell me that you lost your streak, I will take you at your word that's true. Let me know, and I will correct that for you.
John,
there's some nice updates to the app today too.
Yeah, well,
yes, well done.
Thanks. We've got some. I'm working on that feed right now. Obviously, I just decided, I'm going to just take that thing down and make it feel a little bit like there's something coming. But hopefully I'll have that done by Monday, and we'll have, hopefully polls will be a big exciting new feature, and then we'll also be able to see right from that opening page, that home page, we'll start to be able to see events that are like on the horizon, across the entire app, right? So that will include like stuff like the Conjuring watch that's happening this weekend, I believe, and then as well as stuff in the Gilmore Girls space. And when the Olympics starts, we're gonna probably have some Olympics watches in the Olympic space. And so that homepage is going to be a feed of everything that's coming up within the community, as well as stuff that's happening right now, as well as polls that will be kind of like interspersed in there, and people will be able to create polls themselves. So I won't be creating the polls, you'll be creating the polls. Okay.
We should all watch Ken Burns Jazz on DVD.
Yes.
Oh, before you go, John, I just want to know, have you stopped the recording? Because I have a dirty question. It's about David Sutcliffe.
The recording is ended.
Carl. Oh, perfect. Okay, so let me ask the question. No.
Wait, hold on, Carl. Just so you know, Mary's also recording this, and she might not be able to stop her recording.
That's fine. So it's fine if it's on Mary's recording. So here's the thing. I want to know, did you watch the movie that David Sutcliffe was on called Testosterone?
No.
You should watch the movie that David Sutcliffe was on called Testosterone. And then I want you to message me or contact me and let me know what you think about that. Because now that was a wild, wild ride.
I will as soon as I watch it, but my gut tells me you're not going to be getting a DM from me about it for a long time.
John, please spare yourself.
Everyone be quiet. I want him to watch the movie and let me know what it is. Absolutely not a watch party. Watch that individually or with your friends, because I'm not watching that shit with y'all.
All right, everybody. I'm out. Thank you again for hanging with me. I'll see you tomorrow at 7.
Good night, John. See you
Bye.
tomorrow.
Good night.